little slow.
Shows it streaming on my end.
Okay. I see we go. Okay. Yep, we're good.
Okay. The time is now 6:31 p.m. on June 16th, 2020, and I will call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Here.
Trustee Doherty.
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey, not here. Trustee Morris.
Mayor
not-
Lofgren.
Here.
Wow, I don't know why
Mayor
it's
Pro
so
Tem
slow.
Ott.
Here.
Trustee
So
Doherty.
you got this. We're hearing the audio from your YouTube, Linda.
Trustee
Oh,
Doherty.
okay, I wonder, okay, hang on, sorry.
I don't know why. Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Here.
Trustee
So
Doherty.
you got this. We're hearing the audio from your YouTube, Linda.
I was gonna shut it off and hope for the best that it's still recording. Did I lose it? No. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I got you. Okay, I apologize. I think we're good now. Is that better?
Yes,
Okay,
No feedback.
okay, very good. Trustee Jeffrey, no. Trustee Morris, not in attendance. Trustee Strock.
Present.
Trustee Westcott.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so all are present except for Trustee Morris and Trustee Jeffrey, who are both excused tonight, for one for work reasons and one for a family emergency. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Att and a second from Trustee Strock. Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty.
Here.
Trustee Ott.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is audience business. Did we have anyone in the audience tonight? Doesn't look like it.
Let's see.
Oh, one person.
I don't know who that is. Okay, let me, I'm not sure who that is, but let me see who, look, they're here to speak.
Okay.
Okay, the person who's on the line with the last four digits of 2113 in their phone number, are you here to talk during audience participation?
Hey guys, this is Jay Mendoza with United Power. Sorry, I'm calling in, not on my computer. I can
Okay.
talk now. I just wanted to give you guys a brief update on the County Road 2 streetlights.
That would be perfect, actually. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, real quick, we started last week, installed our first one. Project is underway, and we should be completed, knock on wood, about 4 weeks from today.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really all I have. If you guys have any questions for me, that's awesome. Second thing I have is, I think, keep doing what you're doing. I think that roundabout, that whole improvement is looking amazing. I know it's taking a little bit, but keep plugging away. So thank you for your leadership in that.
Cool. And thank you for the update.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, tonight's items on the consent agenda are the June 16th, 2020 payment approval report in the amount of $175,315.56 and the June 2nd, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Att and a second from Trustee Strock. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes,
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
and the motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the financial update for May 2020. Ms. Rademacher.
Mayor, could I interrupt for
Yeah.
1 second? I just wanted to, on the record, that we didn't get any emails or anything for audience participation either, just so people know that we didn't get any. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you. No, that's okay. Thank you. So,
Good
Denise?
evening, Mayor
There you go.
and Board of Trustees. This is Denise. Before you, you have the May 2020 financials. The end of the quarter is coming up here shortly, so I will be doing a complete wrap up and summary on a quarterly basis, either at the end of next month or at the beginning of August. August is when I'll have the numbers for the June sales tax in, so it'll be a more complete summary at that point in time. But I can dive a little deeper next month also. I'll have a pretty good idea on second quarter by July. So are there any questions right now on the May financials that I can answer at this point in time?
I'm looking for virtual hands. And I'm seeing one from Trustee Strack.
I have a pretty simple one. If we go to the Chase operating account, for May, there's $2.9 million in it. And if I go back to our February account papers, the Chase operating account was $5.9 million. So I was kind of wondering where we've spent that $3 million in the last 3 months.
Well, we didn't spend it. We transferred it
Good.
to the account that's called the pool savings. It's called pooled cash savings at Chase. It actually has a yield on it. The operating account was not. It was a non-interest bearing account.
Okay,
And
I
so
see it.
we don't want to have. We want to have as little money in that one as possible. And so we transferred $2 million out of there and into the pooled cash savings. That's what it's called on the front page of the financials. We
Sure,
did
I
that
see it.
last
Okay,
month.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So that brings up, I want to give you just a little brief summary of what I've been working on and things like that. I apologize for my technical difficulties at the last meeting, but I do appreciate the fact that you moved forward with me being able to set up accounts at CSAFE and CSIP. I think that was a very good move. So I have opened accounts there. We have all the paperwork in. The accounts are ready to be funded. We're planning on doing that this week and moving some of the money out of Chase, which is earning 0.18% of interest, and into CSIP and CSAFE. I did check their rates of return today, and they're both earning right now over 0.5. So the difference between 0.18 and 0.5 may not sound like a lot, but it's more than twice the amount for interest. And they're liquid accounts and they're safe. I hope you enjoyed the presentations that the three gentlemen did last week or 2 weeks ago, and understand a little bit more about what investment pools are. Another thing I'm working on is I've submitted all the grant requests for the CDOT grant for the roundabout, so all of the pay requests are in to CDOT. We should be getting the first payment, I would expect, by the end of this month, and they should all be done and we should be reimbursed by the latest is probably August or September. On a side note, I discovered we have some unclaimed property being held by the state, and so I did a request to claim some unclaimed property that was sitting down there under the name of Town of Lock Buoy. The amount is only about $1,800, but I figured it's $1,800 that we didn't have. So hopefully I'll get that in the next few weeks, and I'll let you know how that goes. Staff is working closely, and I know that's an agenda item under the discussion items. We're working closely with Weld County at this point to identify things that we can seek reimbursement for related to the COVID-19. via DOLA. So we've already created the DOLA portal grant so that I can submit reimbursement requests and things of that nature. So staff is working to identify things that we can claim and future expenditures that we may also encounter between now and December 31st. So working on doing that. And we are eligible for about 317,000 or thereabouts with Will County. So as a side note, yes, I did already submit $159, and we've already been reimbursed from Adams County. So if we have to give that money back in order not to jeopardize the 317,000 with Weld County, that's what we'll try to figure out tomorrow when Steve and I talk to the DOLA representative. So other than that, the audit, which will be our next presentation, is wrapped up and final. And so with that, I'm able to move forward with the 2021 budget. So forecasts will be sent out to the department heads. I have forecast what I can, and then I'll be sending out the worksheets and things to the department heads for their input on their various accounts within their respective departments. And I hope to have that to them this week and back from them early July. And you know, we'll be moving forward with the budget. I'll have a calendar ready for you all probably on the next board meeting. That'll give you a little bit more idea of the budget calendar. So that's underway. And with that, I have nothing else to share. So if you don't have any other questions, we can proceed on to the next item.
I had a quick question, which is, will the budget work session calendar you're putting together have a date for the first board budget work session?
Yes, we'll be identifying that with Steve. I'll be working with Steve. I don't know quite what process you're used to in Lockwood yet. So Steve will work with me to enlighten me on that so that we can get you guys involved sooner rather than later and get your input and see, you know, what things you want to have included in the 2021 budget.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think I saw Trustee Strock's virtual hand up.
Yeah, I have one more question. Kind of from the last meeting and going into our next question is our outstanding debt is quite a bit in the town, and with the rates so low, would it behoove us any to think about refinancing any of our bonds?
I actually had, when I was going through the audits and I was reconciling all of the audit, when I got to that page, that's the exact note I have written on my draft audit.
Yeah,
Of
me
whether or
too.
not we should, of whether or not we should research how much it would cost to do any kind of refinancing, because I know the rates on a couple of them are, they say between 2% and 4%. So I'll have to, I can work with Steve on that to see. I know we've refinanced some bonds in the past, but
Yeah,
we'd have to get some bond counsel involved or what have you to see if it would be a good time and cost effective to do some refinancing of anything if possible.
sure. Maybe we can get a discount on a package deal.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, checking for any further hands and seeing none, we will move on to action item A, which is the audit presentation.
Okay, so moving on to the audit. I had the pleasure of working with Heather and Eric. They have been the auditors with the town for quite a number of years. I don't know quite how many, but it's more than you can count on one hand, I believe. So, and they're with the Fiscal Focus Partners. And I enjoyed working with them both. They made it very simple. I was a little hesitant on how to come in and do an audit on things that I hadn't had any, it wasn't my work basically that was being audited. So I was a little hesitant and had some interpretation on how this audit was going to go, but I think it went very well. So I think Heather is planning on presenting first, and then I think Eric, she will introduce Eric after she is done. So I will turn it over to Heather Pruitt right now.
I'm going to jump in if that's okay.
Okay, Eric, okay.
So, hi, everybody, again. This is a little different type of meeting than we're used to having. The audit process itself was a little different this year because of the whole COVID situation and the shutdown of town hall and stuff for a little while. And so we relied more on electronic transfer of files and documentation and so forth than we have in the past. That's not a big issue for us because we do a lot of that anyway. But Denise did a good job of being able to provide the information that we asked for electronically. We did make it out there for a couple of days when things reopened. So it was a little different process, but our job is to gather appropriate evidence and sufficient evidence to support the amounts that are in your financial statements. That's what it says in the auditor's report. And our opinion, it's going to look just like it has the last few years, only the dates will change. Our opinion states that we feel like we've obtained appropriate and sufficient audit evidence, and that the amounts in your financial statements are fairly presented and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So you're going to get a clean opinion again, which is good. I think our process for planning the audit and conducting the audit, like I said, was a little different, but basically what we do is get together as a team, including some people that are on the audit engagement, some people that are not on the audit engagement, just so we get a mix of ideas and different input into the process. We talk about what our plan is to look at information, what type of information we need to obtain, what type of testing we're going to do. And again, I stress, like I do every year, is that we test items. We don't look at every transaction. That would be quite an undertaking. So we test items and satisfy ourselves that the systems are working. And then we do place some reliance on your systems to help out with developing our opinion. Heather Pruitt, I don't know where she's on your screen. On my screen, she's right down here. So Heather's going to take over and just talk about how the audit proceeded from her standpoint as the manager of the process. And she'll hit a couple of highlights on the financial statements, and then we'll take questions and proceed from there.
Good evening. The audit went really well. As Denise alluded to, she was coming in at a time where we're auditing things that she hadn't really necessarily been involved with when they happened, but she did a great job preparing for us and having all our schedules ready. And then she really dug in when we had questions to get us really good, complete answers. So she was on a very steep learning curve, but she did a great job. And so on top of that, like Eric said, we were doing everything electronically, whereas normally we would have been there to have some of the conversations and review some of the data with her. But overall, everything went as good as it could have been, everything considered. Just to draw your attention to a couple of items in the financial statements, really everything was relatively consistent to what we've seen in the past. Capital outlay for the street improvements and the wastewater plant improvements, we continue to see those numbers at high levels, but those are well within your budget, so they were within our expectations. And then you'll notice on some of the contributions for the tap fees and the PIFs, those were really, for the wastewater especially, were higher this year as it relates to a distribution from the escrow account for the BB Draw wastewater service agreement. So you'll see that kind of bump up this year. And the only other kind of unusual thing in the financial statements is we did do a small restatement for fund balance and net position. It is not for audit purposes, it wasn't really material to us, but Denise changed the recognition for the sales, franchise, and highway user tax so that those will be recognized when they're earned instead of when they're received. And so that flowed through everything this year. We did have a conversation about possibly, we're seeing some of the other towns disclose potential uncertainty related to sales tax collections. Fortunately, I think we decided your businesses are all essential. And so their sales tax probably won't be impacted or might even go up compared to as a result of the pandemic. So we're not anticipating a lot of uncertainty related to that at this point in time. So that was kind of all I really had that I wanted to draw your attention to. So we'll take questions if anybody has any questions about anything.
Okay, I will check for virtual hands. Trustee Strack? Larry? He had his hand up.
I think it's muted.
Yeah, I think
All right, that better?
Oh, there you are. Yep.
Okay. I was just saying, I always seem to have my hand up.
Yeah.
On the page where you have the financial highlights, and the second PowerPoint there says governmental activities were $1.7 million. The net position on the business type activities increased $6.6 million. So is that 3.2 in PIFs included in that 6.6 in the
Yes.
business? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's really all the questions. I don't know if Mr. Barnes remembers the first night he came to town and I had like 6 questions on every page of this document. And it hasn't been necessary since.
I do remember it. I remember it well. That was a lengthier discussion than what this one is, but
Yeah, it was. So I
it's-
thank you for that.
well, yeah, and it's, everybody's got to, over time, get a better understanding of the information that's in these financial statements. This is a 67, I'm looking at the number of pages in the PDF here, it's 67 pages. So there's a lot of information in here.
Oh, yeah, I think it would take me a week to go through it all.
Yeah, and a lot of it's useful information and some of it's not useful information. but it's required by government accounting standards to be included in here. And so actually a lot of the amounts are kind of redundant on different pages. You see the same amounts mentioned over again. And that's just the way governments format their financial statements. I think the assumption by the standard setters is that nobody's going to read the whole thing. So if you say it often enough, on enough different pages, maybe it'll stand out to them somewhere along the line. So
Sink in a little bit. So
yeah.
I sure thank you for all your effort on this. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's enjoyable working with the town.
Thanks.
Looking for any further hands, and I'm not seeing any. So I will just say thank you for your work on this. It looks really good, and I'm glad to hear that we got a clean bill of health. And if there is no other questions, I will entertain a motion to accept the audit.
I'll make the motion to accept this audit as proposed.
Second,
I have a motion from Trustee Strack and a second from Trustee Ott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty,
Yes.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes,
Trustee Ott.
yes.
Thank you.
and the motion carries 5-0. And thank you for your presentation. You're welcome to stick around and watch the rest of our meeting if you like, or you're welcome to duck out. So.
I think I'm going to bow out at this point. I don't know about Heather, but I will see you all.
Yes.
And,
I will too.
you have a good summer.
Thank you.
Eric and
Thank
Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is action item 8B, resolution 2020-9. Mr. John.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. Resolution 2020-9 is required in order for you to approve the collaboration agreement between the town and Weld County for the distribution of the CARES funds. I think Mr. Chris Price of my office actually was the one who reviewed this for the town because he's been reviewing it for other municipal clients from other counties. And so I wanted him to sort of weigh in on that. He feels comfortable with it. The distribution here actually is going to come through DOLA. I think Ms. Rademacher or Mocker, sorry, Denise, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, explained a little bit to you about how the town will seek reimbursement. Of course, we don't have absolute certainty yet on what we can or can't get reimbursement for, but we are poking at it to try to make sure we maximize the availability to the town to, you know, make up for the costs that we've incurred as a result of the pandemic.
Okay. Anything further from any staff, Steve or Denise?
So just one quick comment. Weld County's intent is to distribute 50% of the allocation and for the first 3 months, and then this fall look at distribution of the remainder of that allocation to the jurisdictions. So as Maureen mentioned, we're reviewing what's available or what's acceptable to be reimbursed for different costs that we may incur. So that's an ongoing process. Weld County is also setting up a business relief fund. They've asked for local communities to donate a % of their contribution to this business relief fund. So we'll look at doing that as well. And I know that I think the Sandbox Restaurant Bar and Grill was delayed in opening with a new owner. Maybe that's an eligible business. I've also pointed out to Weld County that Tagawa's, I think, had some impacts in reduced operations for a period of time. So we'll look at those. And I think upstate Colorado is going to manage that business program because they can, you know, they're familiar with all the forms and processes and how to evaluate that. So we'll get reports, but that's how that's being set up.
Cool. Questions for Maureen or Steve from anyone? Not seeing any questions. The only thing I'll add is I was on at least one of these calls with Steve. The second one, I think, was the day all the internet went down in town, so I wasn't able to get on it. But they put this together really quick, and it actually worked out pretty well for all of the towns and cities in Weld County. I think Greeley was the only one that they had to do some finagling with the numbers to make sure that Greeley actually got all of its expenses covered. But we're going to do well, and it looks like most of the other small towns in Weld County are. So if there are no questions for Steve or Maureen, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2020-9, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lochbuie approving the Weld County Collaboration Agreement related to distribution of CARES Act funds and authorizing the mayor and town administrator to take steps necessary to implement the agreement and obtain reimbursement for COVID-19 related costs from the Department of Local Affairs.
Second.
Good. At a motion, motion from Trustee Ott and a second from, it sounded like Trustee Strack or Doherty, so take your pick. And roll call, please.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes,
Thank you.
and the motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is discussion item 9A, waste management. Mrs. Reynolds, I think you're on the call.
Yes, let me just unmute myself. So Linda, if you'd like, I do have like a PowerPoint presentation. I can share my screen, or I'm happy to just talk with you all as well.
Screen share would be great if Linda could make that happen.
Okay, I think I can do that.
Linda, you're muted. I can see you talking, but we can't hear you.
Okay, thanks, Maureen. Yeah, yes, Ellie, you should be able to share it now.
Okay. All right, it looks like I have it right here. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So first, thanks for having me. My name is Ellie Reynolds. It's good to see you all again, or virtually see you, I guess. This is the new norm. I really just wanted to check in with you all, just to say hi and see how everything's going, as well as kind of go over what we've been doing to amend some of our operations during the pandemic. As you know, Waste Management, we are an essential business, and it was very important that we didn't have any lapse in service or any operational issues. So I just wanted to give you an update what we're doing as your town partner. So obviously our first commitment is always to our customers and making sure that we have this people first atmosphere. So that's not only for our customers, also for our employees. We want to make sure that we did everything to be able to continue to serve, but at the same time supporting our employees while they're in the field. So just a short slide here saying that we will continue to serve you, of course. And then some of the things that we've done to protect our employees is, of course, we have guaranteed our wages and our benefits. So even if for some reason someone was taken out of the office, whether you know, they were sick and didn't want to risk it, or for some reason they couldn't be at the hauling site, whatever it may be, now that the kids at home, we guaranteed a 40-hour work pay. Regardless if they could work or not during COVID-19, and still have that in place. We also did some assistance programs for our employees with children for childcare, or if they had any more folks at home, maybe some elderly care. And then some of the things that we did just logistically at our hauling sites, of course, are some increased social distancing. So instead of us having what we normally have, our morning huddles, where we have everybody come in at 6 a.m. and, you know, depending on, we launch 3 o'clock, 5, and then a 6. All of those different launches, instead of everyone coming in one room, getting the safety briefing, kind of doing the hoorah and going out for the day, we really started to stagger. So we had 30-minute staggers from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. At the hauling site. That way that we just weren't having a lot of folks in the yard at the same time. We also made sure that they were equipped with everything they needed. We had additional PPE, hand sanitizers, masks, all of that, not only just for our folks at our hauling site, but also for the folks at our recycling facilities. And then the last thing here, we promoted remote work options. Obviously, you see I'm in my office. I was early sent home and have been working from home this whole time, but am always accessible. And then some different things that we did on serving our customers. We have a very short, we had about 2 days in which our call center actually went down. And I did notify the town. And the reason was that at the time, the height of the pandemic, we had everybody working from home. And so we drastically moved all our call centers from having hundreds of people in them very close together to getting everyone everything they needed to do to work remotely. So we have changed. Now our call centers are work from home. And so our employees are taking calls in their home, and they're fully equipped with everything they need to do so. In that time, we didn't have any service issues. We never, had delays due to the pandemic. We didn't stop taking anything. We never stopped recycling. Everything was kept on schedule. A lot of that is, what we did is, as businesses, commercial businesses started to scale back maybe some of their work, we made sure that we were filling that with residential, because we realized that the trash load is hitting now at the curb instead of in commercial buildings. We are still, like I said, we're still delivering the essential services. We're still going to be at your curb. You would have no issue. We did suspend bulk item pickup for a while, but as you guys know, you're having your spring cleanup this weekend. We are back up and running in bulk item as well. So we're happy to report that, you guys are allowed to have your spring cleanup now. And according to the CDC, we should not have any trouble handling that waste. We did make sure that we talked to a lot of our customers and reached out ahead of time if there was any bulk items that had been scheduled maybe months in advance. You guys didn't have any in Loch Buoy. And then the last thing, of course, I touched on this earlier, is that our call centers are now working fully remote from home. We have done a lot more communications. If stuff seems to be outside of the container that we're not going to take, residents might be seeing some tags on them saying, reminder, please put everything in so that our drivers don't have to handle the materials as much. As well as once again, and you guys remember my last presentation, right now, recycling is in demand more than ever. And so we also are going to ask folks to continue to give us that good recycled material that's not contaminated. The stuff that we're seeing, we just want to give you the idea. I know that the last time I talked to you guys, the recycling markets were kind of grim. We're still in the same position. There's not the contamination that they'll allow is still relatively low to our markets. The demand has really increased. So you think about, when everyone ran out of toilet paper, that's what they needed, is they needed that recycled paper, cardboard material. As well as, I'm not sure if there's any fans of some like different kind of drinks, but it is harder to find unique soda drinks right now because there's an aluminum shortage actually. So all of these things are playing into the curbside markets, and we're hoping that we can restore that with the recycling that's going on curbside that's been taken from those commercial containers with the pandemic. And then we just want to let you know what we're doing as a larger company to support our community. We have donated quite a bit of money to the Feeding America and the food banks. We've provided 1 million meals as a company nationwide. And then we also just wanted to say thank you because it has been an honor serving you guys. These are some little pictures actually from Colorado, but we often get a lot of thank yous and folks coming out, bringing drinks, maybe leaving them by the curb, and has really increased during the pandemic. People are very thankful for our workers, as are we. And so we just wanted to say that we thank you for allowing us to be an essential worker and being out every day. Our next steps that we just want to let you know is that nothing has really changed. We just want to let you know that we're still here. We're going to have your spring cleanup. We're still going to be taking the material curbside. Please let your folks know that recycling is more important than ever. And the other thing that we just like to reach out and remind you is that we have a lot more disposal curbside now. So there's a lot more trash. The weight is a lot more heavy. So just a reminder, maybe for your staff or stuff, if folks feel like they need an extra container, those are always options that you have for folks to call in and maybe get that second container while their whole family's at home during this time. So thank you so much. Obviously, stay safe. I'm glad everyone is working from home, and I'm happy to take any questions if you'd like at this time.
Checking for virtual hands. See Trustee Strack.
I guess my question is, would you guys ever consider giving us compost containers?
Yeah, I mean, we're exploring it. Right now we're not doing curbside compost. And the reason is the material is just so contaminated curbside that it's really high threshold. And the composting facility is actually in Eaton. It's A1 Organics. And so it's a relatively far, transportation cost. And then the food waste has to be picked up more than weekly because obviously you can't have it sitting out there. It'll get pretty gross. That's also a really high cost. And A1, their contamination levels are what they take. They're very strict. And so sometimes it can get turned away after we've already made it all the way out there. So right now we're not exploring curbside. Now we do a lot of commercial composting on larger scales where they can manage the material a lot better. So a lot of yard waste stuff or back of the house at maybe universities or things like that where they can manage a lot more what's going into the container.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if you could limit it somehow to lawn clippings and trees and stuff like that rather than the food compost. But That's probably
Yeah,
asking an awful lot.
Yeah, I think it's hard to have a year-round program like that.
Sure.
More something that would be tailored to spring and summer, and that would be hard for us to have a full program that would only work for a couple months.
Thank you so much. Good
Yeah.
answers.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your updates. That was a very informative presentation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much. And I am going to head to dinner, but you have a fun night on here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is discussion item 8B, and I think 8B and 8C are kind of interrelated. And it's listed as me and Ms. Duran, but I actually think this is more Trustee Ott's baby here. It's home rule and potentially changing our status to a city. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything, Trustee Ott, about what you were aiming for here or what discussion you were looking for.
Well, I think we just have to be prepared to get it on the ballot. Notice, do we have to notify Weld County when to get it on the ballot? I have no firm commitment, but at this point I have at least 6 people interested in getting on the committee. So it looks like we've got some more interest than we did the last time. But as soon as we get the nod to go ahead and put on the ballot, I'm going to start getting these people to say, I do, so I can get them to, get their packet when it becomes available at town hall.
So,
So
let
Trustee
me do it.
Ott, is your preference to ask the home rule question versus a reorganization question to change the classification of the municipality from a town to a city? What's your preference?
I don't know why we would want to go from a town to a city. I mean, Centennial still calls itself a town and they have a lot more people than we do. I mean, I guess when you go to a city, you might have to go to wards and some other stuff. I don't know whether it's more, should I say, brain damage than we actually want to take on at this time. My objective since I came on the board was to get home rule going. So I'd say that's my preference.
Okay, so let me ask it this way. Is there anyone, we've in the past decided to try and push forward with the home rule thing if we could find people interested in doing it. Is there anyone opposed to continuing on that path if we're able to find interested candidates for the Charter Commission? If you have objections, please raise your virtual hand now and so state. I'm seeing none. So I think that is your go ahead that we will direct Clerk Blackston to do the steps necessary to get this on the ballot, and then Dave, keep rounding up people and everyone else on the board as well.
We'll put an ordinance in front of you or a resolution. I can't remember how we did that. I've already drafted that based on last year's before you at your July 7th meeting for you to kick off that process.
And I guess my question is, when will the ballots or when will the packets be ready from town hall for the potential committee members?
Well, this election will be handled on the same time frame as the election for trustees, so sometime in that August time frame. So we will have a lot of positions that we're trying to get people to run for, between trustee positions and charter commission positions. And as you know, to initiate the home rule process, we need a charter commission made up of a minimum of 9 people. So you got 3 more to recruit into that type of a position. And again, I'm happy to meet early on with that group to talk, or even I'm happy to meet before the candidate packets come out. I think we tried that last year, just to sort of talk about what the time commitment looks like, what would be expected of people as they're considering whether or not to run.
Okay, it sounds good to me. I'll start trying to get people to firmly commit, and then we'll get it on the ballot, and maybe we can get some more citizen involvement for a change.
That'd be awesome. Okay, and then, yeah. And then just to wrap up 8C, is there anyone who has any interest in pushing forward with a change from town to city right now, which the primary goal of that move for us would be to switch to a ward format in terms of the board seats? Is there anyone who's interested in that at all? Raise your virtual hand and discuss that. Trustee Westcott?
Sorry, I actually raised my hand just to ask about the home rule.
Go ahead.
how are we, besides trustee Ott reaching out to individuals, are we doing any other kind of recruitment, or is that sort
We'll
of?
do it in the newsletter again, like we did last time. I'll mention something in the mayor's corner, and then we'll try and put, I think we had an information sheet that we put in last year when we tried this, and we'll try and revive that and get it in there as well. And then I think we put it on the website and on Facebook. And I think last year we only had like 2 or 3 people that expressed any interest at all. So hopefully through all of those things, we will publish them as a town, and we'll also get them out to the board members so they can spread the information around if they'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, or any interest in the town versus city thing? Okay, looks like we're go ahead on home rule, and let's not worry about the town to city change for now. Next item on the agenda is action discussion item 9D, the CML business meeting. This is, so the CML business meeting is usually held at the fall or at the summer annual conference. Obviously, the summer annual conference got canceled this year, but they are still holding the business meeting in a virtual fashion. They need someone from town to go. Generally, the mayor goes if they hold it at the summer annual conference. I'm willing to go to the virtual meeting unless someone else has a super strong desire to go. But I wanted to make sure we had someone lined up to go. Is there anyone who has an interest in going or attending virtually? Basically, all it is to vote on CML board members and policy statement and such. I'm looking for virtual hands. And seeing none, I will take that as an indication that everyone is okay with me attending on behalf of the town. Okay, next item on the agenda is staff reports. 10A, Chief McCoy.
Good evening, board trustees and everybody else that's important in this room. So I don't have anything really to talk about other than my report. I just wanted to expand a little bit the bill that passed for the police reform bill. Really, we've got a few minor policy changes to do. We do have chokeholds are already eliminated in our policy. It specifically stated that they were prohibited. We do have the carotid artery hold that is in our policy that could be used in certain circumstances, but we will be taking that out per the new law. And that takes effect immediately. Most of this stuff doesn't take effect until 2023, but I think the carotid artery has to be gone immediately. So we're gonna take that, and that's fine. Basically, we don't train on it anyway, and it says in our policy that you can only use it if you're trained on it. So it hasn't been used. The other things. I'm sorry, Steve, you said I got echo. I don't know where that's coming from because I don't have anything else on here. I'm just talking on my phone.
I think it might be
Can
Linda.
you hear me okay?
Can you mute Linda? Now try, Chief.
That better?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the most of this thing that's going through doesn't really impact us. We collect most of that information. Some of the information we don't collect is like if we make a traffic stop and we just give a warning, it's collected through dispatch if we run a person to check their driver's license, which we would always do. But outside of that, we don't document that anywhere else. So I think that the 3 years giving everybody time to figure out a way to report this, I believe the state is probably going to lead the charge on how they're going to collect it. And then we'll probably fall in line with that. So this police reform bill doesn't really reform what we're doing too much. Hopefully it reforms some other people if they're not doing it, and gets us all on the same page so we can all be professional departments, so that we don't have to continue to go through these things. So I welcome the changes. I'm a little concerned about the liability issues for the officers, but I think that the way that it's written, I personally don't believe that really changes much. I think that there's still a good faith portion of that, and if they're not in good faith, then they should be held accountable and liable for what they did. So, if I have any questions about that or anything else related, that's just the hot topic for us right now. I'm getting a little tired of hearing the news about it.
Yeah. Trustee Strack?
You're on mute, Larry.
There we go. Don't your officers have body cameras on when they stop somebody?
They do. We've been wearing body cameras for 8 years. The policy since we've had them is to turn them on whenever they're in contact with anyone in the community. So yeah, they've been I don't know, some of you have been around long enough in the town to remember what the police department's reputation was like before. And one of the reasons that we do have body cameras is because of the reputation the police department had 8-9 years ago and before. And it was to really provide accountability, and it's done that. And it also provides accountability to the citizens too, because some of them don't always act appropriately. And when they see the body cams back of how they're behaving, they usually kind of turn around, don't talk about it anymore. So it's been a great tool for us. It's one of the best things we ever did. It really helped bring our department forward.
Thank you, sir.
And then I wanted to mention too that in the next month, or I don't know if it'll be the next meeting or the meeting after that, I do plan on having a couple officers come to the board meeting, and we're going to give a presentation about use of force and our use of force policy. But really, more than that, is kind of just the way we do business. I think that it's important to understand how we try to do business and how we try to interact with the community and with the people that we're in contact with. So I think that'll be interesting. I hope that it's interesting for you. And as I've been struggling with the COVID thing with citizen ride-alongs. Even our reserve officers, we've kind of put that on a sidebar and not let them come out. But I don't know. I'm more apt. I've got a couple of requests from some citizens to do it, and I hate to turn them away because I think it's good and it's educational for them. So if they're willing to do it and the officer that they're with is willing to do it and they're willing to wear masks, I might change my policy on allowing them to ride along together. But I'm just struggling with that. We'll see where we go with it. And so I'll open that up to all of y'all. If any of you are interested in the ride along, let me know, and we'll try to make that happen when it's the right timing.
Okay. Looks like Larry has another question.
Chief, I was great for that ride along, but like I mentioned before, if you guys will just sit in the back, I think it'd work fine.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay. Any other questions for Chief? Seeing none, thank you for your update, Chief.
Yeah, you bet.
Next report is from Mr. Amy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for the report. I was working with Mickey before we sent it out to kind of format it a little different to give you a little better look. And she included 2020 information twice on the wastewater plant. But I do have 2019 report in front of me. So basically our flow has come up about it was 1,215,000 gallons in 2019, or 1,381,000 in 2020. So we've come up 170,000 gallons a day. So that would relate to around 40 homes on a month. So that just shows you from this year to last year how many more homes have come on. We're still in good shape as far as capacity goes. Brighton at 733,000 gallons a day. That's about 50,000 gallons more a day than they did last year, but nothing drastic. I guess the one thing I want to bring to your attention is how much sludge we dewater in a given month, 458,000 gallons. That requires us to run that new press 4 days a week. And we stagger shifts so we can run it long enough to where we can process enough. So that'll probably be something we'll want to look at to expanding that in 2021. Just as we see more flow, we make more sludge we got to process. Nothing of major catastrophe or issues that went on at the water or the wastewater plant in May, other than the fact that I think if you look at the May report for water production, It's more than doubled. And I want you to understand that that's strictly heat. When in 2018, we did 18,000 or 18 million gallons for the month. So you see, I mean, 2019 lets us know it was kind of a wet month. But I think when we look at May, and we know that May was one of the hotter months in many years, that if we continue to see heat like that, we're going to continue to see production. Now, what does that do? Well, that does bring in more revenue. Let's look at the positive side. The other positive side is that, you know, the water plant capacity is more than capable of meeting that demand from the upgrades that we did in 2018. The other good news is we got well 6 on, which hasn't been on in probably 20 years. Now that well produces a lot of water, meaning that we can start staggering our wells, because well 2, which is right behind the water plant, last year got critically low because we were taxing it so much. So now well 6, the only issue with that, it does have high nitrates, but the good news is when we upgraded the water plant, we put in a type of RO membrane that removes probably 95 to 98% of all nitrates. So, which allows us to blend more. So, you know, it's kind of nice to see water push through the plant. We get to see actually what it could do based on, you know, hot summers, drought seasons, more populations, and yet we have no issues. The guy that that the contractor purchased the membranes from 2 years ago will be up next week. He will pay us a courtesy visit to the water plant to go over, you know, any issues we may be having. We're going to have him look at the one of the pumps that we're seeing it for the RO. We're going to have him look at that and see if there's anything we can do with that. But it's purring along. I mean, with all the upgrades, being able to clean the membranes at the right interval without making a mess or endangering the people that are working on it, I'll tell you, it's nice. And so we could do twice that much. That's the good news. I'll take any questions. I see Ms. Westcott's going like, what the heck is he talking about?
Trustee Strack?
So I see you monitor the well levels.
Yes.
How does that work? You know, because I always get the water engineers to bring us data from the BB draw, and I'm not sure I trust all that. And so all these years I should have been asking you instead of them. So
well, we have level transducers in the well, and it is tied into the SCADA system. So it monitors that all the time. And we'll get critical alarms. Like if well 2 gets down to, like last year, it got down to like 3 feet to be able to keep up. And so we change our blend ratio so where the water's a little harder, has a little more dissolved solids in it to keep up. But right now, with well 6 coming on, I mean, that thing's got a capacity of 1,200 gallons a minute. Well 2's got 1,200 gallons a minute, but for like 2 or 3 days. So that well, the let's say we'll just call it the bucket that well 6 pulls out of, is much bigger. It's much bigger. So it took a little doing to do because it was buried underneath the asphalt when the town hall was built. But we got it, and we figured out how to flush it out before we used it, and it went just smooth as silk.
that's pretty good. So I appreciate that. I also see that the obsolete UV system has been replaced. So congratulations.
Oh yeah, that thing right now we've actually haven't seen it go at above 60% strength.
Oh.
There actually is a meter on there that checks how clear is the water, and then so it applies the correct amount of ultraviolet light for disinfection. We have yet to go above 60%. So that tells you we can do a lot more with that.
That's encouraging. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Wayne? Seeing none, thank you for your report, Mr. Amy.
I would offer Miss Westcott, if she ever wanted to take a tour, I'd be happy to give her a tour. You too, Larry. And I also want to thank Public Works for coming down and mowing the grass.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is staff report from Mr. Johns. Is he on?
Can everyone hear me?
There you are.
So I obviously have everything pretty much in the report, other than of course, it's very busy with all the construction going on currently. I am all around town on a daily basis. And we have been working down at our wastewater plant, more on the shooting range side, getting that prepped and ready to go for the cleanup this weekend. So we're getting signage up to Thursday. We'll have directions. We've actually created a flow through that area so that we can hopefully meet the COVID-19 social distancing, as well as get people in a timely manner. So we're doing everything we can to have a successful event on Friday and Saturday. But besides that, I have nothing other than what's on the report, unless anyone has questions about any of the construction or things that are going on.
I had a quick question. I know before he left the town, Brett was working with Berkshire on fixing the landscaping that was damaged during the CR2 widening project. Do we have any updates on where that's at, if that's going to happen or when it's happening?
So I've got we're doing a retaining wall. Public Works is doing a retaining wall, which is right off of 168th. I've ordered all the supplies for that. I reached out to Lynn with the president with the HOA board on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
She said that they're still in discussion as far as what they want to do with those areas. I can tell you, I'll reach out to Lynn probably tomorrow, because the contractors reached out to me asking what the status is. That's kind of our last holdup to complete the
Right.
County Road 2 project. We're just waiting on the HOA board to make a decision on what they want. And once they make that decision, we have Asphalt Specialties as well as Ward Energy willing to get that work done and completed.
Perfect. And then the second part of that, relatedly, I was walking on the new sidewalk and I noticed a bunch of the fence posts on that fence outside Berkshire got torn up, and I can only imagine it had to be related to the roadwork project, because it looks like it's backhoes and stuff that hit the fence posts and just tore them up real bad. Have we had any discussions about getting those repaired or painted at least?
We have not yet, but I will.
Okay.
I'll reach out to them and discuss that with them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of minor damage in a bunch of spots, and that's not so much what I'm worried about, but there's a couple spots where it looks like they took like half a chunk out of the posts.
Yeah, we still haven't done, at least I haven't done an official walkthrough with them. I know we have a few spots as far as some concrete damage as well that needs to be repaired. So we haven't done a final walk to kind of get a punch list, I guess, together.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm looking for Trustee Strack.
I had a quick question about the roundabout. I see on the south side of 2, or on the 7-Eleven side, they poured an island in colored concrete. So my question is the rest of the roundabout going to be colored concrete, or did somebody kind of get ahead of the plan?
On the roundabout, there's colored concrete?
Well, I guess that's my question. Someone has poured one of those islands on the service road going south.
So the
And I
original,
noticed it's all colored concrete.
yeah, so the original construction drawings for County Road 2 had colored concrete, but the roundabout itself will be asphalt surface.
You know, I was just
The
wondering
curb
about the
area and the islands is the colored concrete.
So it'll
Not the-
be the island and the curb on the roundabout will be colored.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's on that south side on the I-76 frontage road side, Larry.
Yeah, exactly. So I noticed the rest of the concrete islands that they poured out there, they look really nice, the texture that they put in them. So I think that was a good decision. So thank you.
And with the colored concrete on that frontage road, we're trying to match kind of a similar texture where we checkerboarded it.
Oh,
So it kind of blends in with the 168th project as well. So
okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, Checking for any further questions or comments from Mr. Johns. And seeing none, thank you for your update. Next report is from Mr. Stamey.
Thank you, Mayor. So one update. In the top of my staff report, I have contacted Dr. Cog requesting an extension for the trail project. They are going to discuss apparently other communities and extensions, but the June 22nd meeting they have is going to make a recommendation to their full Dr. Cog board. I've also contacted CDOT about that, but we're still proceeding with the work on the IGA with CDOT because that's a fairly lengthy process. And we're also proceeding with the overpass portion of this project. And Jeff Ream is out of town in June, at least he was for tonight, but he'll be available at one of our July meetings. And we'll try to figure that out per the agenda, what meeting time-wise works the best for him to again update the board on the signalization project on I-76.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Steve? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your update. Any updates from any other members of staff tonight?
Mayor, it's
Go
not
ahead.
not necessarily an update, and maybe you're going to talk about this your portion. I wanted to talk about the July meetings. If you're going to consider them going live or remote or hybrid. My question for that is, we have the 7-Eleven liquor license scheduled for the July 21st meeting, which would be a public hearing, and I need to get them a notice. So, they know that, I've told them that the meeting is scheduled for July 21st, but statutorily I need to give them a documentation that states that. And in that document, of course, if it's virtual, I just need to have the Zoom meeting information. So I'm just trying to clarify. So when I put that document together, what you think might be the next step for July meetings.
So I will actually look for hands on that one to see if anyone has any thoughts. At this time, my intent is to move back to live meetings in July with appropriate social distancing to the extent we can and masks when we're not speaking. Is there anyone who's opposed to that strongly or has a position on that? Trustee App. Oh, so he took his hand down.
Yeah, I'm for the live meetings.
I'm not seeing any other hands, so I think we will assume we are going back. I'll assume we're going back to live meetings on July 7th unless something crazy happens between now and then, which is not beyond the realm of possibility. So.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll just, I'm sure if something happens and they would understand that would go to virtual. I know I'm sure this isn't the first 7-Eleven that is trying to get a liquor license through this process. So that's good. Okay, then I'll get their documents and, maybe notify them that if situations continue or, outbreak gets worse or something of that nature, there could be a change to a virtual meeting, but otherwise it'll be in person. Okay, thank you.
Linda, did you want to discuss or ask about the personal computer or iPad for board members?
Oh, yes. Due to the COVID, everybody having to do more Zoom meetings and participate in additional, like the AdCog and all of those things. One of the things we're contemplating is getting the board members an iPad or some type of, not a laptop, but a book, like a Chromebook or something. So the recommendation after talking to IT was iPads. And I just wanted to get the feel of the board if they were interested in doing that. It may help with all of you doing all your meetings online and, and if it continues to go with the COVID-19 in this direction and down the road, we close up again and go back to doing this. That was part of the reason of going to iPads. So you guys would have all the, easy access to your emails, easy access to the board packets, and to have Zoom meetings. So just want to get your thoughts on that.
So I have a couple quick thoughts before I look for hands. My first thought is I like the idea. I've always liked the idea. I think it's especially important because personally, I don't love having to access my town email on my personal device. So I think this is a great opportunity to move towards every board member getting a device for as long as they serve on the board. The second reason I like it is right now we have funds available that we could allocate to it that don't come from anything else. And that's always been my concern, is what is being short shrifted by our expenditure on this. And right now that could be nothing because we have plenty of COVID CARES money out there. So I'll look for other comments. Trustee Westcott.
So once again, I raised my hand for the previous item. I'm not.
Sorry.
That's okay. So would you like me to wait? I can just ask my other.
Go ahead.
So I'm not completely up to date on the safer at home order. I guess my only question about that, and this is that I thought that there was something safer at home order about 65 and older were still supposed to stay at home. And I don't know if that affects anything on the board. And I don't even know if that's still true. But so that's my question about going to a live meeting in July, is if we have any, I don't know if we have anybody who is affected by that, but if we do, or if we have citizens who want to attend virtually because they are not supposed to be leaving their homes under the safe order, then I think we ought to be considerate of that.
Agreed. I mean, the executive orders has allowed us to have board meetings throughout this whole process. We've just chosen to go ahead and have them for that reason, to make sure everybody's safe and, you know, can stay home, and we get allowed to have these Zoom meetings. So I think that age group is still in effect there. So I totally agree with your thoughts.
I mean, I guess maybe, as you had suggested, maybe doing a hybrid. Is there any way we could have, assume we host a live meeting, and then could we have Zoom up and running for anyone, particularly from the public, that wanted to comment that didn't feel comfortable coming to town hall? Is that something we could do?
I'm thinking that's what we could do. Because we were kind of thinking maybe there'd be some board members that may not, you know, depending on what everybody's thoughts were on this process of doing a hybrid one. So we did have AV out here again today because we had some issues with the recording, and court is on Friday, but we're going to practice that next week to make sure if that's a possibility. I think we can do that. And I can let you know as soon as we practice. We're going to practice it more than once just to make sure we totally think it will work, and it should work. So I can get back to you on that, and then you guys can decide how you want to handle that. So
can I, oh, put my hand.
No, go ahead.
Mayor, so I do want you to know that I do believe a lot of jurisdictions are going to continue at least minimally with a hybrid and possibly with complete Zoom meetings for the very concerns that Trustee Westcott raised. So even that, while majority of the board here may not be in that at-risk population, there are some who are, scientists are saying, in that at-risk population, plus you have that issue of the public. So I just want you to know that we're not lagging behind because we haven't gotten back into physical meetings.
Okay. I mean, does that change anyone's thought? Feel free to raise your hands. I see Trustee Strack has had his hand up for a minute here.
Mine's for Linda about the COVID funds for the little tablets or things.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So we talked about this at the ACA meeting, and some of that COVID money can be used for buying the tablets and stuff. And for me, I mean, I would like to, first of all, I guess, see all the board get this, but it would be nice if we could figure out some way to provide those tablets to some of the young children that don't have them, so they can get their schoolwork done, and for some of the elderly for a way to communicate. So I don't know if that's in the realm of this or not. So
But I would just quickly respond to that, Larry. The elderly is an idea I think we should explore, but in terms of children for school, there shouldn't be anyone in our school district for whom that's a problem. The school district actually provided tablets to all the school children.
All right, I didn't know if we could help that way or not. So thank you.
Denise.
If I could chime in on that, we are, as staff, and we welcome any ideas from the board. But I have put out there that, you know, if there's any way that we can help any of them, if there's any I don't know the town of Lochbuie like I knew the town of Meade like the back of my hand. So I'm trying to figure out if there are nonprofits in Lochbuie or service organizations in Lochbuie or anything that we could reach out to assist during this time and to be able to use some of those funds to do such projects, food banks, senior centers. I know Steve and I talked about the schools, as Trustee Schrock just did, and we did reach out to the superintendent of the schools. My thoughts were, I know the schools were still trying to provide meals for students, and if any of their funding runs out, as far as those aspects and those services that they're providing, that could be something that we could jump in and assist with also. So we are looking at different types of service organizations, nonprofits, for-profits. We could do grants to businesses, and as Steve mentioned earlier, a portion of a percentage of our funds would be going to upstate in order for them to provide assistance to businesses. So, but we are trying to think outside of the box on how to help the community more with these funds. And if you all have any ideas, just shoot them our way also, and we'll try to get something put together.
Thumbs up.
Okay. So I think everyone is on board with that. And I know the senior center might be someone we want to reach out to. Maybe the library. I don't know what kind of services the library is offering right now, but they might be someone to reach out to too. But okay, so where does that leave us on the, is there anyone opposed to using a share of the CARES funds that the town is receiving to get tablets for board members, which is, as far as we understand it, an appropriate expense? If you're opposed, please raise your hand and I'll call on you.
May has her hand up for a previous question.
Trustee Westcott.
So I have two things. One is to Trustee Strzok's suggestion about how we might help with funds. I don't know what the cost of this would be in any way, shape, or form, but I know that with the libraries being closed and even during the remote learning during the school session, that there are a number of families who really don't have adequate Wi-Fi access. And I just feel like that becomes super important in a time like this. And so if there was a way for us to set up Wi-Fi hotspots or something in the town so that people who can access it at home could at least maybe drive up to the town hall and access it there or something like that. Or something more general, I think that would be something worth looking into. So then my other point was back to the meetings, and I would just say that I think that it's important that as we move forward, if we return to in-person meetings, that people really shouldn't have to give a reason if they don't feel comfortable. I don't want people to feel pressured. If your anxiety is that you feel safer at home, then I really support the notion that people should be able to stay at home if they feel safer there. And so I don't want to move forward with a plan that's going to put pressure on people to feel like they have to leave their homes because that's what their job is requiring, if it doesn't have to require that.
1000% agree with that. So, I mean, I guess we've kind of gone full circle now. It looks like you kind of had to go ahead on the tablets for board members, so long as it doesn't result in exclusion of other things. Maybe we should talk to IT about seeing if we can do a hotspot in town hall's parking lot. I think that's a great idea. And then in terms of meetings, is there anyone, I kind of want this to be an open exchange here. I have no strong position on whether we go back live or not. I was leaning that way just based on what I was hearing some other communities are doing. If people are more comfortable with hybrid or even staying virtual, certainly feel free to express your thoughts now. Ms. John?
Mayor, I'm actually wanting to comment on the last thing also. That's that the issue of providing Wi-Fi hotspots, I think it's an excellent idea, and I hate to throw wet blankets on things, but I do know that there are statutory limitations on local governments getting in and providing Wi-Fi service that I just need to look at. So I just need a little bit of time to take a look at that to see whether or not that's even a possibility before we solve the logistics problems of how do we actually do it. I want to make sure that legally we can actually go there. So if I can have a little bit of time to take a look at that, and then I'll send y'all an email with where I land on that.
Perfect. That sounds appropriate to me. And I saw Trustee At had his hand up.
I don't care if you want to do hybrid meetings, but I'm going to be there for the meeting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess taking into account all of the comments we heard tonight, especially from Trustee Westcott and from Mr. Ann, I think we should try and figure out how to do some sort of hybrid for people who choose not to attend because they're uncomfortable for whatever reason. So they have that option, whether it be a board member or a member of the public. So maybe we work with IT, and we have 3 weeks to the next meeting, and we make sure we can make that happen. And if we can't, then we'll figure something out in the meantime as to whether we go all live or stay all virtual, one or the other.
And can I add just a little bit of knowledge on that? And that is that I know that in Centennial, where they're doing these hybrids, and especially if we can get these iPads ordered, the physical attendees are actually going to have their iPads at the dais, have their cameras on, and we're basically going to do Zoom meetings, although some people will be sitting next to each other during the Zoom meeting.
Right. That's kind of how I pictured it working. So, I mean, if we can make that work, I don't know how quickly we can get iPads for everyone and get them all set up and running, but if we can, that'd be awesome.
Okay, we can sure try. Otherwise, I mean, when AB was out today and we talked to them, I'm hoping to have a couple more of them out on Monday, and we're gonna practice this thing. But our intent was that we would have our laptop out for Zoom, and those people we would turn on our Zoom just like we have here, and those people would show up, and we could either put them up on the screen so everybody could see them, and or that just be able to hear them. Because, you know, like if we've had the call in for a while and you couldn't see everybody if we were just doing the call in, but they still have the ability to participate, and you would all still be able to hear. And how our AV system works, it would still allow everybody to be recorded. So that is the goal, to try to make it so we can have the hybrid meetings. And I am out some of next week, so we're gonna have a practice on Monday potentially, and then the following week they're gonna come out and just walk us through the whole thing. But when they were here today, they thought for sure that we could get that done. It just may not be like Maureen mentioned. It could be because of how our system works, and so we need to get everybody recorded into the system. It may have to go through a different route, but we will definitely get it. It seems like we can make that happen.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments on either of those issues?
I have
Trustee Stroud.
one. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
It almost
There he
sounds
is.
like it'd be easier just to stay virtual for another meeting or two.
Yeah, I thought about that. My concern is, Larry, I know when we talked about doing public hearings, that way the majority of the board was against the idea of having public hearings during virtual meetings. And we have, next meeting, we have the final vote on the gas station ordinance, and the meeting after that, we have the liquor license that Linda was talking about. So I think we have some concerns there. Otherwise, I'd be 100% with you that we should just stay virtual.
So then I have a question for Maureen, if that's okay. So Maureen, with
Larry was talking and he was muted, I could see.
No,
there we go. Yeah, I can see that. You know, sometimes it doesn't seem like very many people show up to the public meetings anyway. So, but I do agree with you. So thank you.
No, go ahead, Linda.
Maureen, and Jacob as well, Mayor. I'm thinking that maybe we go ahead and notify 7-Eleven that this may be a virtual meeting, and because the policy we just passed about telecommuting and having virtual meetings, and with this being quasi-judicial, that I need a written request from them agreeing to, you know, they're okay with this virtual thing. Even if it being hybrid, it still seems like, you know, they want to be okay with maybe some of the board members being at home and some of them being present, and then they can, so maybe we just go.
They will be just fine, Linda. They are represented by Dill, which does all these liquor licensing across the state. And these guys have been doing Zoom meetings for the last 3 months constantly, like the rest of us. And so when I talked with their attorney last week or the week before, I mentioned that possibility. And I think that's what he anticipates, frankly.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure we get the stuff in writing since we passed that policy that said that, and just make sure, I mean, since that's maybe the option we're going to go, maybe I just put it out there that that's how it happens, and then we have the ability for the hybrid, and because I'll have to do the Zoom to have their
If we're
information.
live, but we got their consent, we're all good to go anyway. So
Yeah, right. Okay.
Anything else for Linda? Seeing no further hands, I bet you didn't expect to be the longest agenda item tonight. Okay. Any other reports from any staff? Okay, next item on the agenda is mayor and trustee comments. No trustee Jeffrey. How about trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
Trustee Ott?
I have nothing, thank you.
Trustee Strapp?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One, I was wondering if I could get a copy of the ordinance, the gas station truck stop ordinance, whatever the latest version is. If I could get a copy of that, I wondered.
Sure, I thought I sent that to you and to Trustee Westcott after we had our meeting last week.
Well, I was expecting it, but I haven't seen it, so.
Okay, I'll verify that I sent that to you.
Okay,
Did
that was
you
my other
get
question.
it? Did you get it, May? Did you get that from me? Okay. Okay, Larry,
I've got the Linda.
Okay, all right. And I guess one of my other questions was, did Trustee Westcott get her comp plan and land use plan? Did we get those documents to her?
I don't think I've seen those.
I think we should get those for you. So the other thing is, I was
I'll
wondering,
send you, I think I have both the comp plan and obviously the ordinance. I'll send them to both of you now.
well, I have the comp plan and I don't have the ordinance, but anyway. The other thing too, I mean, it may have been a long time ago, but it seemed like we got our packets on Thursday night once. And you know, that was really nice because you had town hall was at least open a couple of days before our town meeting. So I don't know if that's ever possible again or not. So, or why we changed from that. That's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and Linda can probably answer that a little better than I can, but I can tell you Linda works from a pretty strict calendar for putting those packets together. And so I think that's just the nature of getting all the information from staff and getting it compiled. But if I'm wrong about that, Linda, go ahead and pipe in.
No, you're correct. I mean, since I've been here, because we put the calendar together, people have to get the documents to me, and then if we have changes, and then we have to put it all together and make sure we get it out. So it is hard to get it out Thursday. I mean, unless we change everybody getting the documents to me sooner by a day or so, which that's kind of difficult to get them by the deadline as it is. And it's hard a little bit because, you know, we do have consultants instead of everybody being in the office here in the town hall. So it makes it, but I mean, we try as best we can to get it out Friday morning. It just doesn't always work. So I do apologize, but I mean, I guess we can try it. I just need to change, I would just need to change the deadlines for staff and stuff. So
well, as busy as you all are, I imagine it would be hard to squeeze out an extra day. So thank you.
sure. We can sure try to get it to you as soon as we can though. We sure try.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Trustee Stratt?
No.
Okay, Trustee Morris is gone. Trustee Westcott?
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and all I had tonight was during the audit presentation, Larry had mentioned potentially looking into bond refinance. I think that's a great idea, especially as it comes to our general obligation bonds, the Old Town Streets and the County Road 2. If we could maybe get those refinanced together and shrink down the term to 15 years or something, and maybe we don't necessarily save on the interest, but we cut off the back 5 years. That would be an awesome thing if we could do that right now while rates are super low. And that's all I had tonight. The next item on our agenda is executive session. Do I have a motion?
I move into executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402, parens 4, parens B, with town council to respond to a specific legal question and provide legal advice on the legislative versus quasi judicial action.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Ott and a second from Trustee Doherty. Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Mayor Loughlin,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Aye.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. We will now go into executive session. So everyone should have gotten a second Zoom link. If you can go ahead and join that meeting now, that would be great.
Good night, everybody.
It took me 1 second to start it, so let me just do that. But
Linda, I'm not sure I have that link. Do you know when you emailed that to me?
late yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
I just forwarded it to you in case you don't have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I have it either.